Okay, before we get started, as you can see the slide for Ask a Recruiter, I liked it because I actually had a question that someone asked about, they said, well, applying to jobs nowadays is pretty much just a crapshoot. It's just a numbers game. And I kind of had some truth to that. I said, well, depending on who you're applying to and depending on how many applicants are in their pipeline, it definitely could turn into a numbers game. But I didn't want to put everything into just chance. But I also want to look at some other factors that definitely play a role on whether or not you are a competitive candidate or not for some of the employers. And if you look at the game board, some of the things I put on there are like, are you asking for referrals? Are you preparing yourself for occupational changes? And this also goes for people that may be on the line that are gainfully employed. You may be working right now, maybe looking for a career change or making a career move. And these are some things you definitely want to consider when you do decide to make that move. And before we get started, this is the game layout that I had, and we're actually going to go back to this and take a look at some of the, each one of these have a different slide that I'm going to talk about. I do a firm overview about Career Innovations. This is your first time joining us. I tell you about a 30-second rundown of what Career Innovations is. I'm Bridget Baggett. I'm the founder of Career Innovations. It's an executive search firm. We were launched in 2007. We're pretty much a referral-based firm, and we pride ourselves in finding top talent using different type of innovative technology. We also use unconventional methods. We're very intuitive with our clients as when being able to find not only a fit the hard skills, but also find a corporate fit for their organization. One of my true passions is organizational change. I truly believe that organizational change or organizational culture is the backbone of a company, and it starts with the culture, and that's pretty much the foundation for attracting and retaining top talent. As you can see the slides, in addition to our Q&A sessions, we also do compensation benchmarking, referral and retention workshops. We do resume edits, resume reviews as well. I didn't put that on there, but we also do that for job seekers as well. Today's quote is, you really want to categorize people by their actions, and you will never be fooled by their words. And I really like that quote because when you start to look at people's actions, their words can never fool you. And we're actually going to look at how this translates to you actually being able to put together your resume, and how people are going to look past your words and really are going to be looking at, what has this person done for their previous employers. They're going to be, they're going to look past words, because many employers in the past have been fooled by, great written resumes. So they are going to look past what you say and actually try to reflect on what you've done. So we're going to talk about that as well. Let the game begin. So when we first start, well, congratulations if you're starting on your career search now. But before you do start, I really like to talk about 3 things that you really want to do before you really take your career search on full force. The first thing you want to be able to do, you want to be able to research. You want to be able to research not only the companies that you're applying to, you want to research what you actually want to do on a long-term basis. What are your career goals? What are you going to look for? What does the market actually demand right now? And you'll be shocked that a lot of people are applying to, to some dying industries. So you really want to do your research and make sure that what you're applying to is in demand. The skill set that you currently have, does it align with the workforce? There are a lot of changes being made out there. Companies are definitely asking for more than they had before. 10 years ago, the expectations weren't so high. They've raised the bar. So you want to also do your research on what are their expectations. And if you haven't been looking for a job or you're new to the workforce, say you've been working or you've been gainfully employed for the past, 5, 10, 15 years, and, now you find yourself looking for a new position, things have changed. The requirements have changed. Technology has changed. Even the way employers are finding candidates have changed. So you want to do your research and you want to find out not only what's important to you, but also what's important to the employer. This way you won't find yourself in this job seeking mode, too often. And I've told or spoke with clients and past employers before that having a job for 30, 40 years, that's the thing of the past. Long time ago, you could get you a job straight out of school, and some cases straight out of high school, and you will work that job for 20, 30 years and get a pension and retire. Those days are over. Unfortunately, we're in not only in an economy, but we're in a period of time where, they're looking for not only new talent, but they're also looking for people that are going to bring new skills and new innovation to the table. They're not just looking for a warm body anymore. So you're going to have to be able to do your research and see what's in demand, not only in your industry, but also you want to see what's in demand or what you want out of your next career move. Because you want to make your next career move to be a permanent position, is something that you can actually grow in, and find opportunities that you can grow within the organization that you choose to be with. Next thing you want to do, you want to have your marketing tools in place. And it's unfortunate that I do speak with candidates that don't even have a marketing plan. It's kind of, I just apply to positions I think that I qualify for. And that's pretty much their marketing plan. They're winging it. I think I qualify for this position, and I apply to it. So when you do your research, you really want to be able to look at, what the company is offering for a service, what the industry is being done, and you want to be able to have marketing tools that's going to be able to target the major players. When I mean the major players, I'm talking about the people that actually make the hiring decision. Unfortunately, recruiters don't make the hiring decision. We're kind of like the middleman, the buffer in the process. The person that makes the hiring decision is going to be that hiring authority, the person that's over that particular department. That's who you want to build a relationship with. So you definitely want to make sure that you're using your marketing tools, whether it's your, resume, your cover letter, your LinkedIn account, any social media outlets that you may have. Make sure that you're actually targeting the people that are going to be making these hiring decisions. And the next thing you want to do, you also want to have some way to be solution oriented. You want to be able to provide a solution for these organizations. And I know in my past workshops that I say that companies are in business not to give you health insurance, not to put your kids through college. They're in business to make money. That's just the brutal, honest truth. That's what they're in business for. So you have to be able to provide a solution for these organizations that's going to align with their overall goal, or their overall mission. And a solution can not only be quantitative data. I know if you're in a field where, that's something that's big, marketing, sales, that's the main things that employers will look at, is that quantitative data. Say you're not so much in a role that requires a lot of selling or numbers. Regardless of what role you are in, you do play a part in the organization's growth. Whether you save time, whether you streamline the process, whatever you've done within that organization to allow it to be more effective and more efficient, that needs to be included in your resume. And we had a question pertaining to some of the skill sets of a resume, and I'm going to talk about that towards the latter part, because that was a question that I am going to address. But that's one thing that you need to also have in place before you even start your career search, because this is a question that's going to come up. They're going to ask you, maybe not directly, but in very indirect ways, why should I hire you? What makes you different from everyone else out here that has this same education, this same experience? You're going to have to be able to have a solution already ready to be able to give to employers. So that's what you want to look at when you do that, and when you actually start your process. And again, know your target market, and once you do that, you can actually proceed to figure out what are the next things that you want to do. At the end of the day, you want to keep moving, and like I said, I'm going to address the question where it said, someone asked, is it a numbers game? Quality versus quantity. I have some people that, I've applied to all these positions. I haven't heard anything back, and and that's why in this slide you see that crack in the ground, or that pitfall, or that obstacle that this figure has to jump over. And I wanted to just pretty much relate that to the different challenges that you are facing, that you probably have faced, and some of the challenges that in the future you will face. And some of them may be a hiring freeze. Some of them may be that you applied to a position, you made it through the interview, and they come to tell you, hey, this position's been put on hold. I've had candidates that's happened to. No communication. You've interviewed, you went through the process, and you haven't heard anything back. That happens. And also, it is the sheer volume of applicants that have applied to the position. That does play a part, and that is a factor in why you may not receive communication. Of course, I'm not siding and saying that this is something that's acceptable. It's not. In some areas of the recruitment process, it is broken. I'll be the first to admit that. But with that said, at the end of the day, you have to keep moving. You have to keep moving past the obstacles, because you're going to face that, but you still want to make sure that you're giving each employer a quality snapshot of your ability. So you don't want to focus so many on, I've applied to so many positions. You want to make sure that the impact of each position that you apply to has the quality that is going to get an employer to reach back out to you and put you in their interview process. So that's really the hardest part about this. It's not about applying to jobs, or applying to the most jobs. It's being able to put your best foot forward with each opportunity that presents itself. And that's what you're going to have to keep doing despite the obstacles that you're going to have to face. And let's go actually break down to the questions. I did receive 4 questions earlier in the slides, or earlier in the when I post this. So there were, I think, 4 or 5 questions that were submitted. So this is the first question. If you do have questions, again, go ahead and type them. At the end of this workshop, I'm going to address those questions. So if you have some that you weren't able to submit, go ahead and type those questions now. The first one is, how do employers expect a prospect to get experience in the field without giving the opportunity? And I hear this especially from, and I even put this in my notes, either you are a recent grad or you're deciding to make a career move. So that's usually where I get this question from. And the first thing I say, if you are either making a career move, and this goes for even if you're a new grad, you want to consider entry-level positions. Many of these positions require 0 experience. I've seen the postings that, some positions out there say, 0 to 2 years or 0 to 1 year. You may have to actually look at positions that require no experience. Again, if you're right out of college, your experience is very limited. Or it's in its infancy. So a lot of employers, may not consider you for an advanced or career level position, or instead, if you're actually gainfully employed, you may be asking to see if you can do some cross training in an area that you may not have exposure to. Next thing you want to look at is mentorships, informationals, preceptorships, and my last one was cross training. So in order to get the experience, and one thing is also you need to tweak your expectations. If you don't have experience, you shouldn't be applying to mid-career positions. And that was one thing that, I've heard candidates do. They're not hearing anything back, but they're applying to positions that they have no experience in. So of course, employers are not going to reach out to you. They're not going to interview you if they clearly see that you don't have the experience in the position that they're hiring for. That's one reason why you may not be hearing anything back. You want to be able to take a step back and look at positions, like I said, they're either entry level, or if you're gainfully employed, you should also consider cross-training in your current place of employment in a position that's going to bring you value to a position that you want to work in later on down the road. So if you're currently working a position that you really don't want to work in, and say that you're looking to make a career change, I would see if I could cross-train or have a mentor within my organization that could give me guidance down that career path. That way, when you do start to apply for positions, you can at least say you've had exposure to that type of role. And if you're straight out of college, the first thing you should be looking at is internships, preceptorships. There's actually a website. It's called bestjobsforgrads.com. On that website, there are positions that are dedicated for recent college grads. There are also positions that are dedicated for entry-level employees or candidates. So you definitely can check that website out, and that way there are opportunities for people like you that do not have experience, but employers are willing to train. And that's some things that many employers aren't willing to do now, because many don't have the budget to, hire a lot of people and have to train them. Some organizations are looking to have their employees, basically after they hire, be able to hit the ground running, but this particular website is dedicated to recent grads, and they're dedicated to employers that are willing to take on entry-level employees and train them. Again, that's bestjobsforgrads.com. And definitely be open to niche boards. That was just one website. If you actually Google entry-level jobs or recent grad jobs, or Google something of that nature, it will bring up job boards that are just dedicated for entry-level positions. So you definitely want to look beyond I call them the big five. Look beyond the 5 basic job boards, which is, your Career Builder and LinkedIn and your Monster. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of job boards that are niched out just for niches like this, and this is one of them, entry level and internships. They do have a website dedicated solely for those type of positions. So you definitely want to take a look at that as well. And also, if you are employed, reach out to your current employer as well and see if they can expose you to the skill set that you may be looking to go into. Next question is, I graduated from a small school in Pennsylvania. How can I stand out on applications and make employers notice me? First thing I want to say, and it goes back to our quote, actions speak louder than words. Again, if you characterize people by their actions, you won't be fooled by their words. And I think that speaks volumes in this particular incident. Regardless if you graduated from a small school or Ivy League school, you want to stand out not based on the school that you attended, but by your accomplishments, by the things you've done, by your experiences. You don't want to become so degree dependent that's the only asset that you have. Keep in mind, these same people that are applying to these jobs are going to have degrees too. Some may not. And guess what? Some employers may go with someone that may not have a degree, but trumps that over experience. You never know. So you definitely don't want to use having a degree or graduating from a small school as a pitfall, and you definitely don't want to use it as your only advantage, as your only leverage either. That goes both ways, regardless if you, if you graduated from a small school or Ivy League school. To stand out, it goes back to your marketing plan. In order to stand out, again, regardless of the school that you went to, you want to to be able to know, what do you have to offer these organizations? We already talked about organizations are in business, or for-profit corporations are in business to make money. What are you going to do? What are you going to offer? What's your solution? What value are you going to bring the organization? And how are you going to get that to the decision makers? So your marketing plan is going to play a big part in this. Your profile should be completed on LinkedIn. You should be doing something within your industry that makes you a to-go person. You should be looked upon as an expert in your industry. You should be putting out articles and interests. You should be blogging on topics. You should be a part of industry-related organizations. These are the things that you should be a part of, despite the degree that you have. This is who you want to be, or this is the career you're trying to pursue, and you need to be a part of that network. Next thing you want to actually look at, again, is internships and entry-level positions. If you haven't already, look at internships or entry-level positions that may be tailored to your goals. And you also want to be accomplishment focused. And what I mean by that, kind of like when I spoke about the solution focus, this is the same thing. You want to be able to let your accomplishments shine brighter than your degree. At the end of the day, this is what I think of a degree. When you have a degree, it shows that you follow through. And I look at a lot of candidates when I look at them, and I look at where they got your degree, and I even seen some people on their job postings, they'll say, BA, BS degree or equivalent, and they really don't specify, what you should have, unless it's a particular niche like accounting. Of course, they're going to say, accounting degree. But most positions I've seen, unless they're laser focused down to a niche, they just, BA degree, BS degree, or equivalent. But to me, a degree shows that you're able to start something and finish it. You're able to follow through on something. So that's what a degree speaks to many employers as well, that you are able to start something and finish it through. Outside of that, they're going to look at your accomplishments. Besides finishing this project or finishing this degree, what have you done on a far as work experience to bring an employer value? So that's what you really want to focus on, as well as your accomplishments. So I hope that was able to answer that question. The next slide is, my background is commercial banking, but I also have worked in entrepreneurship. How do I avoid being categorized as a banker? Well, this goes back to presentation, and I'm going to go ahead and bring all these up because I'm going to talk about them at the same time. This goes back to presentation, marketing, solution, and your accomplishments. If your background is commercial banking, and this goes for anybody on the line that feels that, they may be confused, or they may be getting calls about positions that have nothing to do with their experience, you may want to question on how you're presenting yourself. First of all, is your resume keyword rich? Does it have those words that people in your industry are going to be searching for? How are you marketing yourself? Are you marketing yourself as someone that's in commercial banking that held a particular title, or are you coming across as a banker? What solutions are you providing for your target market in the commercial banking industry? That's something that you want to look at as well. What accomplishments have you done that align with your overall career goals? If you have all these things aligned, you won't have any confusion. They will not confuse you, with a banker or a teller or anyone else if you have in your resume, or you're presenting yourself and your solutions are coming across in whatever industry of commercial banking that you're in. And with this question, this tells me that your resume is not speaking what you really can do. And what that means is your resume is not speaking your actual capabilities. So that's what this is telling me. If people are confusing you as a banker or confusing you as something that you're not, it's telling me that you're not representing yourself as what you actually do. And that can be an issue. That's where the communication and disconnect comes in. So you want to make sure that you are using keywords or industry specific keywords. They're going to be searched to find something that you do. So what is it that you do that an ordinary banker doesn't do? What makes you and a banker different? You need to be able to expand on what you do and the differentiators that differentiate you from a banker. And I'm seeing this question being asked. I'm seeing that that's not being done. So that's where the confusion is coming in. So you definitely want to make sure that you're presenting yourself and using keyword rich words in your resume, that you're marketing yourself using these keywords, and you're coming across as what you are in this industry, and you're also supplying solutions. That's something that's unique to the position that you're in. This is what you would do, not necessarily a banker. And you also want to emphasize your accomplishments as well. And I hope that was able to answer that question. Next one is difficulty finding a job after a 5-year career break. Any tips? And I'm going to go ahead and let these roll out as well. When you're looking for a job and you've taken off, and it sounds like after 5 years of a career break, the first thing you want to be is very transparent. You want to be very transparent, and one thing that I can see that employers will have difficulty digesting is your skill set, which means that you haven't been in the market for 5 years. That's half a decade. A lot of things have changed. A lot of things has changed from last year, 2013, up into this year. So you've been out the game for 5 years. One thing that employers are going to look at is how current are your skills. Whatever industry you were in, and this question didn't specify the industry that you were in. And if you're in IT or something where the skill set is constantly changing, you definitely are going to have to do something to refresh your skills. Next thing, they're going to be looking for an explanation, and depending on how personal this is or why you took that 5-year break, hey, it may not be any of their business, but they're going to ask. They're going to want to know why you weren't working for 5 years. And in fact, I would be curious, okay, you took a break, but what were you doing? What were you doing to keep yourself current, knowing that you may eventually have to re-enter the workforce? They're going to want to know that, and you're also going to have to be flexible. And what I mean by flexible, wherever you left the industry, you may not come back in the industry with that same, background or that same place that you were in, or that so you definitely want to be flexible on how you enter the market. So if you left out in an executive or managerial position, you may not be able to jump in head first, getting a managerial position or an executive type position, because they're going to look at your skill set not as up to date. So you may definitely have to be more flexible on the type of positions that you may have to take when entering the workforce. Not to say it's impossible, and especially within that 5-year break, if you were doing something to entertain your career, as far as, you were taking classes, you were in school, you were doing something, you may have been volunteering, you may have been doing something part-time, wherever the case may be, that, would be a plus on you re-entering the workforce. You may be able to gain that traction to get that same level of employability as you did before. But if you aren't doing absolutely nothing for those 5 years, it's going to be very hard for you to be able to enter the career force on that same level. So in order for you to do that, and the tips will be the same tips that I've given anyone that's looking for a job, whether or not they've been out for a long time or not, is put your marketing plan together. Be ready for the questions. They're going to ask about your skill set. They're going to ask for explanation, and you definitely want to be as transparent as possible when you approach the market. And again, be open to entry-level positions as well. Hope that was able to answer that question. The next one is not having updated skills on the resume. And this is when I was going to talk about the resume, because this question was asked. What you should be looking at is keyword-driven resumes, parsing software, tasks versus solutions, and make sure that you're value-oriented. And that's something that, regardless of having a current skill set or not, you definitely should be looking at this. What I mean by keyword-driven, we're not talking about buzzwords. People are real big on the buzzwords, which is can be very redundant if you overuse them. But we're talking about keywords that are unique to the industry that you're applying for. So you definitely want to make sure that, if someone were to search for a person that did what you did, if someone were to search for a person that does what you do, they're going to put in certain keywords. And that's the same thing with LinkedIn. If you put in certain keywords, some people are going to rank higher than others depending on how many keywords they have in their profile. That's why it's so pertinent to have a completed LinkedIn profile, because when I search for people, there's someone out there that does exactly what I'm looking for, but they don't come up in my search because they only have 2 sentences for their current employer. Even though they have the capability to do exactly what I'm hiring for, I'll never know because they don't come up in my search. So that's why keywords are very, very important. And unfortunately, we're living in an economy and a society where employers are investing in parsing software. And that's why I have my second point up there, is because employers are invested in software in which they can actually scan resumes before a human does. It's software out there that scans resumes, and they scan for particular keywords that they're looking for. And if you're ever curious about what keywords are, look in the job description. They're all over the place, especially under the preferred and the requirements. These are the words they're looking for. If they're looking for a particular technology or a particular degree, a particular experience, that's going to be in the job description, and best believe they're going to be scanning for that. So you have to make sure that your resume is going to be able to surpass the parsing software. And unfortunately, this takes effect before a human or HR or recruiter or anyone else even gets to see your resume. And I've seen a lot of, resumes fall between the cracks and get chucked out of the process because they weren't keyword rich. Not to say these were bad candidates. Not to say that people couldn't do the job. It's just that their resume didn't stand up to the software that was scanning it. And that's a hard way to lose an opportunity over something as simple as having keywords in your resume. Another thing you want to make sure you have in there, and I put tasks versus solutions. And is a big difference between task and solutions. And there's a big difference between what you did for a job and how you actually made an organization grow and how you actually presented value for an organization. And I'm not going to go too deep in this because I don't have enough time to do so, but it's a CAR method I use, which is conflict, action, and resolution. That's why I call it the CAR method. And you really, with the CAR method, what you do is you put out a conflict or problem that you had with the organization. You talk about the action you took. How did you resolve that problem? And you talk about the resolution. That's what people want to know. They want to know how you handle problems, how did you resolve the problem, and what value did you bring to the organization? What was the result? Did you increase revenue? Did you save the company money? Did you do something of that nature? That's what they're looking for. They don't want to know, I managed 5 people, I did this, I did that, I did this. If they want a job description, they can Google your job title and get the same verbiage that I'm seeing in some people's resumes. And that's not what they're looking for. Of course, who you manage was important, but they really want to know, okay, what was the result of managing these people? How did you drive this team to grow the organization? That's what's important. That's important, not that you manage 10 people. So that's what people are looking for. And again, it goes back to bringing value. How is your resume bringing value, and how will a decision maker see the value that you can potentially bring to their organization? So if you're not having your skills updated on your resume, that definitely is a roadblock, and that could be holding you back from potential job offers. As something as simple as being able to have your resume compliant with the software. And unfortunately, that's what we're dealing with now. You are up against software, and you are up against competition as far as people with the same skill sets as you as well. So you definitely want to look at that and see how you're able to implement that in your resume. And we're at the end of the road, and I like to stop around this time. We have about 15-20 minutes left, and this is when I open up the line and I take questions from anyone online that may have not submitted a question beforehand. Before I take questions, June and July is pretty much over with. These workshops that we have, we're making them on demand. Because I know that different schedules, different times, people can't do the live workshops. So we're making them on demand, and I'll send emails out on if you do want to look at some of the workshops that we have that are tailored to a specific challenge that you may have, whether it's resume writing, whether it's time management, whether it's just marketing yourself. We talk about creative ways to market yourself. Whatever the case may be, we've actually have workshops that are tailored down to a specific niche, and we go beyond scratching the surface. We actually give different challenges and assignments with the participants to get them moving and getting out their comfort zone to be able to make these connections. At the end of this workshop, there is a survey that I'd like everyone to take. When you take the survey, it's only, I think, 8 to 10 questions that you answer, and it just gives us insight on what we can do to better our best with these workshops. And the reason why we give these workshops is for you. As Career Innovations, we're not able to place every single resume that comes across our desk, but we do want to be able to give the resources and the tools for people that are facing some challenges that we may not be able to address on a face-to-face basis. So that's why we do this. So I'm going to go to see what questions we have available. Okay, I do have questions. Do you have a sample of keywords that may be listed or should be listed in your resume? That goes back to what I was saying about the keywords. The keywords can be, like I said, within the resume. You also can do a, I can't even think, I think it's called, I want to say word creator. And if you shoot me an email, I'll tell you what it is. And it's really a software where you can take a job description, and once you take the job description, you can paste it in this software, and it's really any description. And what it does, it highlights the most used words, and words that are used repeatedly, and with the exception of like the and any of those words, but words that are used repeatedly, it highlights, and that way you can actually create a list of frequently used words within that job description. And I've actually seen resumes that, after they do their resume, at the bottom of their resume, they'll actually just have a section where they'll have their keywords, and they'll just paste a list of keywords in there. And again, it's not for cosmetic purposes, because when you look at the resume, you have this list at the bottom. They're not doing it for that. They're doing it because they know this is the resume they use to upload into the employer's ATS systems, which is your applicant tracking system, and they know it's going to be scanned for keywords. So at the very bottom of their resume, they'll take the frequently used words in a particular job description, and they'll paste it at the bottom of their resume just so they can pick up the keywords. So it may not be integrated in the resume, but they make sure it's somewhere on there where it can be detected. I've seen people do that as well. So the short version of your answer would be that depending on your industry, the keywords are going to change. You definitely can Google whatever your industry is, look up keywords that are in your industry, and look at search words, or what words people frequently search words for a particular position, because that's what, especially when I do Boolean searches, I use some typical words that I know that if they're in this position they're going to have, and or they should have, and that's what's going to bring me results. So you definitely want to look at that. But again, also the keywords are usually, they're giving you the keywords in the job description. It's usually under the requirements, under the preferreds, under the qualifications. They're usually putting the keywords that they're looking for in there, and they're going to be scanning your resume for. So definitely make sure that you're looking at the job descriptions and you're submitting your resume based on what you can do in the job description. Okay, you mentioned you have a service to edit and correct resumes. What is the price of this service? Well, based on what type of level of corrections you need, and what I mean by that, we edit and correct, and the price is based on whether it's an entry level, whether it's a mid-career, whether it's a professional resume, and of course someone that is an engineer with patents is going to pay us a different price than someone that just graduated from college. So we base it on the type of level of service that you need. You can definitely take a look at our website. It's right here, career-innovate.com. It's www.career-innovate.com. Go to the very bottom. It's going to be hyperlinks, and just click on fees. And if you click on fees, it'll bring up all the services that we offer to job seekers, including resume writing and edits. So you definitely could take a look at that as well. At the end of this, there's a survey, and you can check the box on wanting more information, and we'll send you an email on how to get started on that if you want us to do a professional rewrite of your resume. And I hope that answered that question. Do you have any more questions tonight? I don't see any more questions. We're about 10 till. I really do appreciate your time. I really do appreciate everyone logging on today. The questions previous to that were submitted before the workshop, prior to the workshop, were excellent. Hopefully you can join us next week. We'll be doing this again, a new theme. I like to come up with themes. I don't know if you followed me or look at any of my workshops. I try to find most creative themes to keep everyone's attention. It doesn't always work, but I try. And at the end, you can see persistence plus hard work pays off. And I've known people that have been searching for a job for months, and they finally said, you know what, Bridget, I didn't give up. I did what you said, and they finally got a job offer, and it definitely paid off at the end of the day. So it's not going to be easy, and I'm not here to tell you that if you do this, it's going to work. Nothing's 100% guaranteed. All I can do is give you the tools. They're going to make you the most marketable and bring you closer to that decision maker. And again, the decisions based on what the company, the decisions based on what the company is going to do. But definitely, that's why I do this. I really want to make sure that you're out there, you're putting your 100%, 120% out there. Looking for a job is a full-time position itself. I've known people that, they keep a spreadsheet. They're on 100 and something odd jobs. Half of them they heard anything from. And I understand we're recovering. We're an economy that's recovering from, the downfall with the banking and the automotive industry. So we do have employers that are, taking their time in the recruiting process. But definitely do not be afraid to apply, and do not be afraid to reach out to these decision makers. So I think that's all I'm going to have tonight. I'm going to wrap it up, and thank you so much. Please take the survey, and hopefully I'll see you next week. Have a good night.